Okay, well, let me go back to the panelists. And there have been 3 questions about innovation, which is interesting, stimulating demand, and the international setup for crisis times. I think we will start with the first question, and Mark, about what sort of institutional setup we could have for addressing the key issues emerging in this crisis.
Yeah, I do think we have problems of international coordination here on policies, and this has been a perennial issue. I mean, the IMF was set up to try and prevent competitive exchange rate devaluations, also to try and promote stability in the world economy, which requires a certain degree of cooperation between countries. Now, when the crisis broke out in 2008, the G20 met, and they all agreed because they were really afraid of what was happening to their economies. They all agreed on the package which I mentioned about fiscal, monetary and financial policies. What we have seen since then, however, is that more and more national considerations and national political considerations have taken precedence over the cooperative solutions in this area. So, for example, the views on how rapidly countries should tighten fiscal policy has now become dominated in the United States by the Tea Party debate and the fear that the stimulus given had created these high debt levels. And in Europe, we have these issues of the Germans wanting everyone to run German policies, regardless of the implications of that for demand management, for the demand which Mr. Slocum just mentioned. So we have a problem of trying to get countries firstly to identify what the internationally consistent set of policies is, but also to persuade them to introduce those. And I was closely involved in this in the IMF in the 2003-2008 period, where we were trying to get countries to change their policies to deal with the global imbalances, and we didn't get very much traction. So I think there's a real risk that we will not see, we'll see uncoordinated policies that will lead to a lower global outcome. Neither the IMF's mechanisms are sufficiently effective, nor the mutual assessment process of the G20. So that is a concern. On the financial regulation side, too, though everyone agrees that we need strong international rules, and Basel III is international, what we also see is that countries are really going their own way on structural issues in their banking system and on regulation. And I think that it actually will lead to, over time, to a breakdown of the degree of openness on international banking that we have had in the past. Just a final comment on innovation, just to say that the economists, and particularly the IMF, doesn't have much to say about innovation. But I do think that over the long run, once we get these growth problems, the short-run growth problems dealt with, I think there's too much pessimism around here about growth prospects. It reminds me of Poland 20 years ago. You came here, and I lived here in 1990 to 93, and people say, well, you know, the steel industry is closing. The coal industry is closing. Where is the growth going to come from? We can't produce anything in Poland. We can't compete with all these other countries. And then you look at Wroclaw. You look at Wroclaw today, and you see what growth can do, what entrepreneurship, what sensible macroeconomic policies can actually do, and you realize you don't have a problem. Over the longer run, the Chinese are all getting very rich. Great. What do rich people consume? They consume European and American brands. They consume the products of everyone else. In the economic world, there's not a zero-sum game here. We're going to see plenty of demand, provided we can keep the wheels on the economy for the time being. We're going to see plenty of demand coming from Asian countries for the products of Europe and for the products of the United States. And we can all grow on the basis of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Now, Maciej, if you could take the question about whether we can afford to be innovative in difficult times, when we are catch-up economy in this country and in this region, do we have to focus on the essentials, or should we deliberately earmark money for innovation as well?
Well, first, it's already visible that I don't like the the innovation as a target per se. I think that we must develop our businesses and our economy and our companies. We have no choice but to go there. Otherwise, we will be left behind the BRIC and the US. Still, two other statements: innovation costs. And by the way, because we are as well speaking about transatlantic security costs. So it means that we must, and we cannot print money, and we use a lot of money for the stimulus in the last almost 3 years. It means that the innovation will not, development, we cannot finance it without structural changes. And for me, it's a condition. It means we can do whatever strategy, we can build whatever committees. If we do not go into the structural reforms of our states, if we don't go into the structure cuts in the spendings, in the changes in our social security systems, into the flexibility of the labor market, we simply will not generate resources for the innovation. It's impossible to ask the companies to pay more taxes and to be more innovative and to spend more on the R&D in the same time. We definitely think, I think that the advantage of the crisis, and maybe the advantage, let's find a positive way, in this huge public deficits we have today, that simply we cannot continue. We cannot live with this habits we've got in the past years of let's try to cover it with a bit more debt. It's too deep today. We must go into structural reforms. We must generate new resources. We must use European funds differently that we use them today, and this is the only way to find financial resources for the innovative economy. And by the way, and I will come back to the discussion this morning, financial resources for security. It wasn't stressed enough today, but if you compare budgets of the US, and we speak about transatlantic, with what the Europeans are spending on security, then you don't see a partnership, you see a dependence. An obvious dependence. We must generate resources, so we must push reforms first to generate new financial resources, and then redirect them on this R&D. It will not come just because we will order it. So the reforms, and I think for Europe, the only chance to be innovative and to grow is to continue and to accelerate the integration. And so I don't know what is the solution, because there have been a question what kind of organization we should have on the global level. For security, we have the Transatlantic Alliance, and I think it's done. For the economical dimension, I'm not sure that we have the equivalent, the one equivalent. So staying on this bipolar world, I would say Europe, at least, we must accelerate the integration to optimize spendings, to optimize the policies, and to obtain synergies. Sorry for this very consulting-like expression, but synergies in the development of our economies.
Thank you very much.